The Arkham Knight PC port is scheduled for its next patch in August. Street Fighter V touted brand new freemium DLC system. Some developers are blocking a curator on Steam that denotes games as 30 FPS, and Skyforge has been found running its peer-to-peer application in the background of Windows users directly on computer startup. What does this all mean for you? My name is Mooseman, and I'll be informing you of that very fact on the very first episode of PC Gaming News Weekly. Batman Arkham Knight was released to the PC in a completely sorry state. Crashes on almost every system, frame rate drops on even the highest end machines, missing effects that were just removed from the PC port altogether, and not to mention the 30 FPS lock that couldn't be removed without editing INI files. While the Batman games have not had traditionally smooth launches on PC, Batman Arkham Knight set more than a few precedents by being not only one of the absolute worst AAA ports that we've ever seen, but also one of the first AAA games to be taken off of store shelves and digital distribution services due to poor quality of the game. But this is old news. What actually is news is that after a month of being off the Steam store, an update on the Steam community this week has confirmed that the patch is due in August for current owners of the game. The message reads, and I quote, "As an update, Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, Rocksteady, and our partners are targeting an interim patch update for existing players to be released in August. This update will address many of the issues that we listed in our June 27th update. We will provide additional details as we finalize that interim patch over the coming weeks." So let's break this quote down for a minute. There are two major phrases in this announcement that throw up a red flag immediately. First is that this is only an interim patch. Secondly, that this patch is only for existing players. What this means is that while the game is being worked on, there is no evidence towards when the game will be available again for purchase, or how far into the process of fixing the game Rocksteady have actually progressed. Even after a month of development, there's still no telling of the exact date the game will be available, just simply that it will be available this fall, meaning that it could be several more months until we see a re-release of Batman Arkham Knight. Capcom has announced that Street Fighter V will have a new way to unlock DLC through in-game currency called Fight Money. This way of obtaining fighters without paying, combined with the promise of removing Super and Ultra editions of the game, is a blessing upon a series that has been plagued by a huge level of microtransactions throughout its history. Fighting games, Street Fighter especially, have always been pretty anti-consumer when it comes to their pay models. Most fighting games have somewhat expensive DLC characters, in addition to releasing enhanced or updated editions that have very little additional content and are usually released at a full game's price tag. They know that they can release these editions because the fighting game community is almost exclusively driven by hardcore competitive gamers that will buy up whatever content they can get to ensure they are not left behind experience-wise in the competition. While this honestly does sound like a dream come true for fans of the series, I'm still going to wait to see how much currency is going to take to unlock these characters without spending any money. Don't get me wrong, being able to unlock DLC through in-game means is a definite improvement, but I'm afraid that there being a way to unlock DLC in-game will end up giving Capcom an excuse for skyrocketing the price of the DLC for the people they know will still buy DLC day one regardless of the price. But since the actual release is a long way off in March of 2016, we'll still have plenty of time to hear more specific details regarding this information. Recently, Steam users have begun using the game Curator system, a system designed to give quick recommendations to customers looking at the Steam store page to label games as being locked at 30 FPS. Known as the Frame Rate Police, the goal of this Curator page is to objectively catalog every game on Steam that is locked at 30 FPS. Well, recently developers have been blocking the Curator from showing up on their game's page. Although I rarely use the Steam Curator system because it has essentially been taken over by large groups and personalities, as a reviewer of games myself, I find it astonishing that the developer has the ability to remove this critique from their page. The curation system itself is a system that I believe is redundant. The Steam review system is already in place, albeit the system is pretty terrible, but it is a system that I think could work much better than the Curator system if updated appropriately. The primary advantage of the Steam review system is that the community decides on which reviews are helpful and which are not. The problem with the Curator system is that it is not managed by the community, but is completely controlled by large personalities who always show up on the front page regardless of the quality of their critique. The mere existence of the 30 FPS group shows how the Curator system can be abused to push one group's agenda. While the 30 FPS Curator is an objective list that is mostly helpful, This new curator proves that Steam can't stop popular groups from organizing to essentially take over store pages. Skyforge, a fairly new MMO, has been under scrutiny by gamers as it was recently discovered that the game uses peer-to-peer connections for downloading and updating the game. While this is nothing new for MMOs, what is new is that when starting Windows, if the default setting is not turned off, the game will immediately begin seeding without any warning and without launching anything related to the game. While the North American producer of the game has come out and apologized somewhat, this feature was obviously not an oversight and was implemented in this way to intentionally boost the quality of the game's peer-to-peer downloads without regard for the consumer. Peer-to-peer sharing is almost essential for MMOs to ensure that during large patches that the company has enough resources to allow a large number of users to update. But what Skyforge team is doing here is completely unethical, especially in a world where many people have hard data caps. It is unacceptable for a company to run this kind of service without user knowledge. All they would have to have done is put an icon in the taskbar indicating that the service was running, allowing users to disable it whenever they wanted to stop seeding or needed to free up bandwidth. While I haven't played Skyforge yet, this blatant disregard for the user will probably keep me away from it in the future. That wraps up PC gaming news for this week, but the discussion doesn't end there. Leave a comment down below about today's topics and we can continue the discussion further. Also, don't forget to subscribe, as every Wednesday I will be covering all the relevant PC gaming news that I can. Since this is the first episode, I may change the format up a little from week to week, so thank you for helping me get started in what I hope to be a very informative and entertaining series.